Hello, I'm Alex Moazed, and welcome to this segment on B2B distribution leadership insights. Today, we're going to talk about product data and the importance of that, particularly with B2B marketplace examples. I'm joined by Tri Tran, managing partner at Applico. Tri, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Nick Johnson, co-author of Modern Monopolies with me and managing director at Applico. Nick, also great to have you back.
Great to be here.
So we've got a number of different examples ranging from many B2B marketplaces in our top 10 ranking, like Jour and Grub Market, for example. We've got examples from Xometry, the first public B2B marketplace. And then we've got some smaller up and coming B2B marketplaces. Also, we're in the more broadly top 50 ranking that we published in the past few months. But there's kind of a couple buckets when we look at product data that we're going to focus on in terms of examples. One of those areas, which we'll get to second, is how do these B2B marketplaces make the onboarding process, the updating of your inventory, the matching of your product catalog to the centralized product catalog easy, painless, seamless, and we have a bunch of examples in that arena. I think the other bit where we'll start with are once the platform has your data, which is, the magic trick. Once they have your data, what are the cool things that they can do with that data? What kind of unique experiences can they create very often for the customers, for the consumers, with the data from all the myriad of producers on the platform? So one example that we want to go to first is Xometry. Xometry is a B2B marketplace for kind of on-demand parts manufacturing, contract manufacturing. They have a network of over 5,000 independent machinists in the United States. You can see here on YouTube our interview with the Xometry CEO, now roughly a $3 billion market cap. And the first area, you can see we have the nice little product segments itemized here on YouTube. The first area is called Using AI to Price Custom Products. And this is actually a product data challenge. This isn't actually a pricing challenge. This is using AI and machine learning to price, but it all comes down to the product data. Nick or Tri, any further context you want to provide on how product data is actually unlocking this experience for Xometry's customers?
The technology that Xometry deployed for this is incredible. Obviously, when a customer of theirs is specifying, hey, I want this parts made, you can upload a CAD drawing, you can show, pick and choose the materials you want to make this out of, the finishing, and looking at the CAD drawing can also yield a lot of information, like what kind of curvature do you need to make, obviously basic dimensions and things of that nature. But there is many variables that come into play when you specify how a product should be made, and this quote unquote catalog of capabilities that Xometry has built up in terms of what the machinists are capable of, what kind of materials they work with, their expertise also come into play, right? So there are so many factors besides just the material and the finish and the material. I think the amazing part is they are able to build up this amazing catalog of materials, capabilities, and from there can quote instantly a price on how much it costs to make a single unit or 1,000 units or how many units that the customer is looking to purchase, and can confidently know that they can go quote unquote shop that to a machinist who can execute on the job, get it done with the greatest quality and deliverability, right, on time and all that. So it's a huge aspect of the business, and in fact, I would say that's the heart of the business. With that, everything else kind of come along for the ride.
You got to remember the way this used to be done, in some cases still is phone calls, emails, and God forbid, in some cases, fax machines. And a lot of this is sort of manual processes where someone would call up and say, hey, can you give me a quote for this order? And those things take time. And sort of the magic of this product data challenge that Xometry has done a great job solving is you can do that instantaneously now because they've got the product data. They understand the capabilities. And it's not just the quote, it's the understanding of what goes into the job and the capabilities that go into that. And that's a huge product data challenge. The quote is kind of the magic moment, for the customer. But there's a lot that goes into solving that, and product data is a key part of it.
And this challenge is one that I'm sure all of the B2B distribution executives watching this video are all too familiar with. This challenge, this ability to quote customers on the spot, all the things that they want in their order book, it doesn't get any clearer in terms of a direct correlation to whether or not you close that deal. And we've seen this all over just about every vertical of B2B distribution is how do you quote the order on the spot for all the products and with accurate fulfillment times. And that's that magic moment you're talking about there, Nick, is that all the things that Tri was describing, all that kind of rolls up in Xometry's ability to do that instantaneously and then source it from their network of suppliers. It's also why Xometry is recognizing all of that throughput as revenue. It's because they're taking that risk to say, we've quoted the customer that they're going to get this product and this timeline, and we're taking liability over that. That's why they don't actually have GMV, which is what you kind of expect from a classical marketplace model. They're actually recognizing all that order throughput as revenue, and then what they pay out to the third-party machinists is actually their COGS. So it's so material to their business model, it actually flows into how they do their financial reporting. So Xometry is a great example of these kind of magical moments unlocked by product data capability. The other one I want to go to is Material Bank. Material Bank just raised $100 million a couple months ago as a hair shy of that magical unicorn valuation at $1 billion. I think they're 975 post-money valuation. Material Bank, if you don't know what they do, they provide samples, basically same-day samples. You can go order a sample. You have to be an interior designer or a contractor, right? So you have to be a business customer that's ordering supplies for a project. And so you're vetted. And then you can order a request for samples by midnight and get them the next day by 10 a.m. They have we've covered them elsewhere on Winner Take All. You can go understand how they do this and all the infrastructure and logistics they have in place to unlock that experience. But the product data experience we're going to talk about here is that you can see in this article, they quote that they have 500,000 SKUs in their 400,000 square foot facility. So they've got 500,000 material SKUs ready to be shipped at any moment. You can see the graphic here. This is a digital graphic showing what the actual materials will look like when they come in your box. These sample materials here. So with 500,000 SKUs and the type of contractors and interior design customers that Material Bank has, they have a pretty high threshold for product data to be able to plug into the different digital tools and experiences that their customers are utilizing before getting to the point where they need to use Material Bank.
I feel like the first and foremost thing they have to enable would be for the designers to search for the right materials, right? Let's start there, because when you have 500,000 products and undoubtedly many more as they onboard more brands, you got to make sure the designer who's looking, let's say, for carpets or wall coverings or countertop, samples, can specify the range of sample that they're looking for. Otherwise, they're not receiving 500,000 SKU in a box, right? They're getting 10, maybe 15, I don't know, whatever range of samples they're looking for. So to me, digitizing all that is the first challenge. You can imagine a DIY kind of user go to Home Depot looking at a sample set of carpets. You've probably seen that a lot. And you just kind of, touch it and look at it and then, make a random guess on which one you like. like what description is there on each one of those is probably poorly thought out at best. So yeah, they got to digitize that, make it searchable. That to me is a first challenge. And then to me, things kind of have to flow through from there. Let's say the designer got their 10 samples of wall covering, and they decide, yep, this is the one I want. Well, that information got to then get relayed over to the salesperson so that they know exactly that's what they're eventually going to order. You don't mistakenly ship them something else that they didn't choose. All that has to flow through, end to end through all the subsystems and all the players that are involved. So I thought, it's pretty incredible what they have done as well. Let alone the whole fulfillment that you mentioned earlier, Alex, how you can put in an order by midnight and get it by 10 a.m. the next day, and how they operate that. That's a whole other coolness of the company.
I think product data ties into that too, of course, because you've got to have pretty exact product data to be able to understand, okay, these different samples, from the search experience of what they found. In order to get that out, if someone places an order at midnight, it's going to get to them the next day by 10:30 a.m. That's a pretty strong data-driven operation that they have in the warehouse there, right, where they use a lot of sort of advanced robotics and other things to make sure that that fulfillment operation is possible and with a high degree of accuracy. So I think that augments that as well.
What are some examples about companies and product data kind of on the onboarding side of the equation? One example we'll go to first is a company called Grub Market. They were in our top 10 of B2B marketplaces. They are a B2B food marketplace, predominantly in the kind of food service supply chain flow, catering to what restaurants are ordering, for example, for food. If you go to wholesaleware.com, wholesaleware.com is from Grub Market, and it's essentially a light ERP that they're giving away to food wholesalers and distributors. Why would they do this? Because in order for any of these magical experiences to occur downstream at the customer or in the warehouse and the fulfillment supply chain side of things, you need to very often get that product data upstream. And so there's connectivity issues to get that product data. You need to integrate with other experiences to exchange and receive information. But also there can be issues in the connectivity. Maybe you don't get all the information. API, EDI don't actually work too well together. And so what you've also now seen in this example is the B2B marketplace actually just start to give away their own kind of inventory management ERP type solution to their producers. Is this thing free, Tri? Do you know?
There's a SaaS type fee, but I don't think that's really the point of collecting a SaaS fees. I think having the ability to find out product data, because part of inventory management, obviously, you have to identify all the products that you're tracking. The difficulty with food products is it's not like a CPG product where everything is a nice UPC code with a barcode for you to scan from. There's a lot of fresh products that have what they call catch weight, for example, where you're buying this much ground beef and they have to charge you by the pound. And however much that packaging, it may be 1.5 pounds, it could be 50 pounds and a half. It doesn't necessarily have an exact weight every time. So yeah, I think the key here for Grub Market is be able to see the data moving and get the wholesalers that are using these tools to potentially be part of their network of suppliers, which is, I think, the most valued aspect of the whole operation.
A couple other examples in the onboarding experience that we wanted to talk about. Nick, do you want to speak to those?
Yeah, I think there's a few, and I think that the challenge that all of these are solving, including Grub Market, is if you look at B2B, there's a lot of sellers that aren't ready to sell online. They don't really have strong product data. Not everyone describes everything the same way. They might not have kind of e-commerce ready images. In some cases, you have very regulated industries. You need to know, different certifications, who made the product, where the product came from, very exact specifications. Industries like food, where obviously you need to know in some cases ingredients, chemical is another one. There's a number of marketplaces that kind of use product data to solve this onboarding challenge and make it seamless and make it easy for distributors and others to get online quickly. A big one, Node, kind of one of the top chemical marketplaces in the US. They offer one of their kind of value props. They offer digital storefronts to any sort of chemical producer who wants to sell online. And part of what they say is basically, we'll do all this for you. They have kind of a data team that will get your product data into their kind of universal product catalog and get you on board quickly. Rebus, another one, a leading metals marketplace, similar kind of value prop there, where they'll kind of quickly help you on board, and they have a data team that handles all the pain for you and makes it very easy to get from your classification. In the metals industry, things get described in a lot of different ways, to kind of the Rebus classification of products and integrate directly into their catalog. And then the third one, and a big one, Jor, which is one of the leading fashion and retail marketplaces for wholesale. They have actually a whole sort of data uploader portal that they have for their sellers to make it very easy for any seller to kind of onboard and add new products. And then they do some more customize things with sellers to, for example, get like a 360 kind of showroom view of certain products online, because as you could imagine, in fashion, visualization of a product is really key part in whether or not someone wants to buy that product.
There tend to be a lot of quote unquote standardization attempts going on, whether it's food or chemical and whatnot, right? And there are usually bodies or organizations who specialize in doing so. And I think every one of these players attempt to take advantage of, use them, leverage them however they can. So that gets a lot of the way there. But it doesn't necessarily mean there'll be 100% coverage. So a lot of these marketplaces or platform would have to backfill with the remaining, whether they have their own process on how they would, whether you approach the manufacturers to get the last final, cross the T, dot the I's, or they have to reverse engineer themselves, take the picture of the product themselves if one is not available, measure the product themselves if this specific dimension is just not there, and have a whole team or a process to do so effectively, or leverage technology if they can to make that more scalable. But yeah, that's part of the whole journey on making this product catalog as complete, as detailed, and merchandisable as possible.
And the last point I'll make there is you actually don't need to be a B2B marketplace to have a centralized product catalog and invest in good product data, right? These are, I would argue, every B2B distributor essentially has their own version of a product catalog and has been investing a lot of money in improving the data in that catalog. The difference of what we're talking about here is that all of these companies are solving other either distributors and or customers and or supplier challenges with an aggregated view of product data, taking a myriad of different product lists from a variety of different types of suppliers and then matching them to that centralized product catalog. Very difficult challenge to do at scale in a timely fashion, right? To make that painless, that onboarding process painless for new distributors that want to join your marketplace. If it takes you weeks or days even, that can be a big turnoff to onboarding that. How are you using AI and machine learning to make these matches and then keep them up to date? Because you may have every week, or if you're uploading a product list, sometimes daily or manually, you need these algorithms to be running and doing that QA check all the time. The last example, though, of a company that's not a marketplace, but has a centralized product catalog and is investing on product content on behalf of its distributor customers, in this case, would be a company called Keyclo. Think of them as like a Shopify for the electrical distribution industry. Raised, I think, around $10 million so far. They offer essentially a storefront, just like Node does for chemical suppliers. Keyclo offers a storefront for electrical distributors, and they have a centralized product catalog with a catalog with merchandisable, what we would call it, merchandisable product descriptions, nice images, descriptions, product descriptions that fit an e-commerce template, right? Here's the header, here's the subheader, here are the keywords, right? And you kind of have it broken out into all the different sections that you would have on an e-commerce website. All these little details go a huge way when you look at the conversion rate of a customer going through that workflow online. But Kiklo is not a marketplace because they don't have their own network of third-party sellers yet. We think this is coming, but right now, all they're doing is helping distributors get online, give them an e-commerce store, and solve their product data challenges through the means that I was just describing. So these are challenges, these product data challenges and these product data capabilities are universal to the B2B distribution industry. That's why we've seen Grainger Zorro go from $500 million in revenue in 2017 with 1.8 million SKUs to $550 million in revenue in 2018 with 2 million SKUs to jump up to 2020, over 700 million in revenue and 6 million SKUs. In order to make those revenue leaps, having a robust product data capability is directly tied to revenue growth and success because you need to constantly be investing in solving these product data challenges at scale. And you're only really going to be put through the ringer when you have to aggregate massive amounts of product data and data from a bunch of third-party sellers, distributors, suppliers, etc. So closing thoughts there, Tri, and then Nick, you get the last word.
The Kiklo one is I call that like the groundworks. You got to get that going first. Solve it for one client at a time before that capability can be expanded and solve it for more of a marketplace or a platform kind of environment. But I view that as good for them because they're solving their clients' needs first and foremost, which is getting online and getting their product catalog off of paper or even a PDF. Onto a digital format that is, like you said, merchandisable in an e-commerce environment. Pretty thrilling. But yeah, I view all these players have that same mindset, have that same capabilities. They may approach it differently, but they all see it as the biggest value. You cannot have any kind of a platform if you don't have this solved. I don't see how you can even make it interesting. Customers are looking for one-stop shopping. They don't want to go to a marketplace, search for something, and see 50 variants of the exact same item. That would just be super confusing and a terrible user experience in general.
That's how do you eBay.
Yeah, exactly. And it's never fun. You have to know what you're looking for if you're going to go on eBay. It's not a fun experience for the people who, I'm just looking for this one thing. Why am I having to wade through? So yeah, I think, to make it a great experience and both the customer side of things and also on the supplier side, you got to do this well and, good for them. Great seeing that they're making great progress on these fronts.
Yeah, I think the last thing I would say is that we've talked a lot about product data, but we've also alluded to kind of the challenge of keeping that up to date in real time. So the second leg of that stool is connectivity. You got to have the connectivity to maintain that product data, be able to get real inventory levels in, for example, get real pricing data and these kinds of things. It becomes much harder to do product data well if you don't have that connectivity. And I think, as Tri said, you kind of have to do this if you're a marketplace. I don't think not every distributor has to do it to the same level as a marketplace, but all distributors should be looking at how do they solve these same challenges, because it's something that's really affects everyone in the B2B distribution industry. And it's something that can give you a big leg up interacting with your customers, even if you're not a marketplace, if you can do these things really well.
Well said. Thanks, guys. That's it for us today on this session of B2B Distribution Leadership Insights. Thanks for joining.